How did trench warfare develop in World War I, and what were its effects on the front? The Entente and the Central Powers, attempting to hide their troops from this slaughter, had begun a new military tactic called trench warfare. In October, both sides began to dig in, and roughly 400 miles of trenches began to be dug on both sides of the war, stretching from the English Channel to the Swiss Alps. The trenches were often cramped, muddy, wet, cold, and infested with fat rats that ate the dead. And when I mean fat rats, I mean rats so large that they'd give New York rats a run for their money. It would often be so wet in these trenches, if you got wet, you would never begin to dry off unless you were able to leave the trench. Often trench foot would begin to take the soldiers' feet. Trench foot happens when someone's foot stays so wet for so long it begins to die, and the skin rubs off and gets infected. The only way to fix this is to get out of the cold and wet trenches, or to cut the limb off entirely. Roughly 100,000 Entente soldiers were affected by trench foot during the First World War.